Hello, my name is Marian, and this is my proposal for the new K Blair Hospice. So starting off, the new proposal for the K Blair Hospice is located in the city of Brampton, with the site proposing multiple opportunities and challenges to the design of a hospice facility. Firstly, on a macro scale, the city of Brampton is relatively new and growing, continuously expanding and sprawling. Although the site lies at the center edge of the city, it is by no means at the edge of the city, as new proposals and official city planning indicate a densification of the area. And therefore, the new hospice must also respond to the emergent urban context of the area, while it's preserving the neighboring residential ideals and typology. On the other hand, the site's natural physical features indicate a special opportunity for stimulative and healing experiences and ambience for the hospice. The site borders the city and the greater province's green belt. Therefore, the site is composed of a diverse flora and fauna. And after conducting studies on the site's sensory experiences, the most logical point of positive reinforcement is on the edge of the site that looks towards the green belt. The green belt brings positive views of nature, microclimate, and sounds. On the other hand, the area on the side edging Bramler Road has negative sensory experiences such as noise, traffic and construction, non-stimulating views, and pollution from urban sprawl. And the street corner and center point of the site receives the most sun, and as it rises on the east and sets in the west, thus to harness daylight, glazing should be in these directions. Although to prevent overheating, shading devices must also be placed. And looking at the city's zoning site, it's of an institutional building. And primarily, the site has only one official entry point, which is located on Bramley Road. So this offers some problems to the construction and operation of the building, as due to the site's unique geometry, limiting the design of the hospice. And on the other hand, the area's growing density and commercial use means that Bromley Road as a secondary artery of the city will increase in traffic, creating delays and difficulties when accessing and leaving the site. Therefore, a new driveway to the private park road should be proposed to the city, which helps ease traffic and makes the site easier to access and exit, while allowing for design opportunities for the hospice. The process of applying for a new driveway usually takes up to 8 weeks. And other zoning bylaws, which the new design for the hospice complies, are the maximum amount of lot coverage, which is about 1/3 of the site. So if the building is within the 9 and 7 meters setbacks, and also taking into consideration an additional sort of buffer area that allows protection for the natural heritage system, which is a green belt, and there are no structures or fences installed within the daylight triangle of the site for traffic safety. So in conclusion, the design will follow an organization of having the residences, as these are most private and need of special care when designing and placing them, along the northern border of the site, facing the green belt, as it offers positive sensory experiences, while towards the middle of the site, the area, which is a neutral area, will have the support spaces of the building composed of medical areas and utility rooms. And these are a mediator between the public and private parts of the building. And the common areas and family/public areas of the building will be placed alongside Bramley Road due to their function as entry points of the building and public services. And so they also act within the context of it's in the site's increasing urban setting. And also, as you can see within the legal diagram, so access would be through Bramley Road. It will follow one way, and you can exit through the private park road. So, and within the context of building a hospice, there are other considerations aside from the site's context that must be considered. Firstly, there's a unique ethos to the hospice as an in-between an institutional medical space and a residential space. And as pointed out in the production of hospice space by Sarah McGann, the hospice are resistant to the factory-like machinations of hospitals when dealing with end-of-life patients. They provide a trilinear approach to care, providing spiritual emotional and medical care and support within the same roof. This approach to care not only preserves but upholds the dignity of the resident. And to accommodate this, architecture can look at the plethora of research and study focusing on the impact and importance of space when it comes to health and well-being. As shown in the graph by Dubose, McAllister, and Hattie, and Takarius, there are many design strategies and decisions which have research and evidence showing their effectiveness in providing a healthy environment to occupants. The hospice proposal this design follows many of these strategies to ensure the well-being of the occupants. And now looking at the program presented, there have been some consolidations to the proposed design. In the proposed design, firstly, after conducting program studies, the residential areas should be towards the back rear of the site, facing the green belt, and with the support spaces close by. And the public spaces can be an intermediate space within the public and private, and they're also more informational, so they have more freedom in regards to their design. And while staff areas and other back of house functions, such as mechanical space, can be placed on a different floor and separated. So in conclusion, architecture can bridge the gap between the different aspects of end-of-life care as it can create thresholds and between the three different aspects of care: medical, spiritual, emotional, which are shown within the program, and looking at the roles of the main occupants of the space, which are the residents, their family and staff. There's a sense of continuation or routine, which can be a source of malaise, especially with staff who give care not only medically, but also emotionally, resulting in emotional fatigue to some. And therefore, the threshold spaces, such as communal, open, flex spaces, which can be customized by its occupants, and these reinforce comfort and provide healing. And they provide a private moment for contemplation, an intimate moment between family or staff, or a social moment within different occupants. And these spaces can be lodges, courtyards, garden, or common areas for rest. And within architecture, a threshold can be a part of a door opening, but in theory, it can also be an intersection between public and private or semi-private space, a physical space that is connected and at the same time separated from adjacent spaces, which prompts and orchestrates changing behavior of the occupant due to different statuses. And within the context of hospice, a threshold can represent the connection between the split of the medical, the spiritual, and emotional, of man and nature. And therefore, the concept of the proposal is utilizing thresholds as spaces for healing, as these thresholds can create an interstitial space that bring healing, which bridges the gap in contemporary end-of-life care, as the hospice is an opening a door to the three different types of care and the needs of end-of-life patients. And if you look at it in massing, the building will be composed of smaller masses, which can be organized by use. A mass representing a couple of residential suites or the medical area, the family space, staff, etc., which are then connected by a circulatory indoor loggia, which provides diversified moments and experiences, such as experiences of nature through the courtyard, or an exterior pathway during the summer, or a greenhouse during the winter, and intimacy and privacy through sparse seating areas located in different parts of the loggia instead of a large singular gathering space for all, or a moment of social interaction, as the loggia is the heart of the building. Everybody passes through it. By having the building composed of a cluster of different smaller masses, it responds to the surroundings and the residential context. And it also allows for a better organization of the spaces overall, as the more private residential clusters can be put on the rear end of the site, bringing privacy and safety from the growing neighborhood and urban sprawl, while having the public spaces towards the street connecting the urban context. And as you can see in these sketches, which are alongside Bramley Road, you can see sort of the main mass, which is sort of the face of the building. And this will be the public spaces. And if you can see within this mass, there's sort of glazing, which allows sort of the pedestrians to look at the functions of the building. But if you look at the materiality of the building is of concrete stacks, which bring hardness and sort of a sense of it creates sort of a border, but not necessarily a border between the pedestrians and the building itself, but rather a border between sort of the public and sort of the back of the site, which of course are the residences, which are in need of high privacy. But of course, also concrete is historically used in institutional buildings, so it makes the pedestrian know that this is a somewhat institutional building. So it's in a way an opening, but also a stop. And the concrete itself, it's not as like sort of like a large panel. It's not a homogeneous mass. It's in sort of smaller sort of stacks, which it does not bring alienation towards the viewer as it is within a human scale. And in the ground floor plan, you can see, of course, the small different clusters towards the rear of the site are the residences, well, the 12 residences. And you can see here the interstitial threshold space. And in the center of that, there's a courtyard bridging man and nature. And these floor plans, they complied with OBC code for fire safety. As the threshold space, they have a width of around 3 meters. So they have the obligatory 2.4 OBC compliance for hospitals and long-term homes. And in the basement, it has the offices and back of house, which were mentioned before. And as you can see here, within the elevation, you can sort of see those smaller masses and the connecting threshold, or rather circulatory space. And if you look at the sketch here, there's a sketch from the backyard, so the residential areas, and these are a different material. As you can see in this elevation sketch, they are made of wood, and by having a difference of material between the front and the back, it reinforces that idea of thresholds, right? Because you have a difference, a different experience. And in this diagram, it is a sample of design guidelines that are followed throughout the buildings, and these are taken from the many different studies, such as the one mentioned before. And as you can see in the zoom in of the plan of the residential suite, so the suites, of course, they look towards the backyard, and here you can see sort of a small cluster of that threshold space, or rather that space where you can sit down, you can move these sofas, you can have coffee, you can have a moment to yourself, or maybe talk to the person sitting beside if there's anybody. And if you look at the bariatric room, it has, of course, the overhang to allow for proper sort of safety. And also, if you can see in this room here in the dashed line, so that could also be a curtain applied. So it brings another layer of privacy between also family, right? So if the residents wants privacy, they can have that. And you can see here in these sketches and the section of the courtyard. And here are just some operational diagrams. So the structure, which is composed of COT panels, and those small clusters, there are panels to reinforce the idea of sort of hardness, whereas the threshold space is columns so it's more light. You can see the difference between the spaces. And these are all prefabricated, which are they're cost efficient. Also, they can reduce construction as they're more efficient, and they can also be sustainable in regards to, of course, where they're fabricated, but also they can be taken apart and perhaps even recycled. And if you can see in the HVAC intention and fire safety, all of these, for the fire safety, they all follow the 25 meter distance. And as you can see here, this cluster can exit towards where the parkings are, whereas this other cluster can exit towards Bramley Road. And of course, the basement has a fire stairs that lead to an exit. And for the HVAC, you can sort of see here in this section, for the residential areas and the ground floor would actually be under on the ground instead of your regular drop ceiling. And this is again to differentiate from the typical sort of commercial drop ceilings and to bring that idea of residential ethos. And this is just another idea, perhaps, that can be developed later, especially when it comes to the context of the natural heritage system. Perhaps you can have a wetland which filtrates the site, especially given the compact soil of the site. And this can actually, you can use the wastewater and you can use it to irrigate the plants. So again, that eases operations and especially costs when it comes to bringing water to the site. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening.